Have you ever kind of looked around and wondered why some people just seem to get richer and richer while others are working their tails off but just treading water? Well, that's the exact question Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad dives into. This book pretty much turns all the usual financial advice on its head, and it does it not with a bunch of boring, complex theories, but with a really simple story about two dads and the completely opposite lessons they taught about money. Okay, let's get right into it. So, the whole idea of the book is seen through the eyes of Robert as a kid. And he had these two father figures who were, night and day. First, there was his actual dad, who he calls his poor dad. And then there was his best friend's father, who became his mentor, his rich dad. Now, both of them were successful in their own way, both made good money, but how their lives turned out financially couldn't be more different. And I mean, when you put them side by side, the difference is just staggering. On one hand, you have his poor dad. Super smart guy, had a PhD, went to top schools like Stanford. He had a great, stable job working for the government. Then you've got rich dad, who didn't even make it past the 8th grade. And yet, poor dad worried about bills his entire life. Rich dad, he ended up becoming one of the richest men in Hawaii. So what gives? It wasn't about their paycheck or their diploma. It was about their mindset, their whole philosophy on how money works.
And this is where it gets really, really interesting. Because young Robert is stuck in the middle, right? He's getting these two totally contradictory pieces of advice all the time. What they told him about money, about your career, about taking risks, it was like they were from different planets.
So, poor dad had a belief that's actually pretty common. You've probably heard it a million times. This idea that chasing money is somehow bad or greedy, that it's the source of problems. It's a view that comes from a place of caution, maybe even a little bit of fear. But then Rich Dad comes along and just flips that idea completely on its head. He'd say, no. The lack of money is the root of all evil. For him, not having money was the real cause of stress, of lost opportunities, of struggle. And that one single difference in perspective, well, it sets the stage for everything else.
And that difference in thinking totally shaped how they saw risk. You know the drill with poor dad's advice. Go to school, get a good, safe job, and whatever you do, don't take risks. It's that classic, traditional path that so many of us are told to follow.
Rich Dad's philosophy, though, wasn't about being reckless. Not at all. It was about being smart. He taught that if you avoid risk completely, you're also avoiding massive opportunities. So the key isn't to run away from it, but to actually understand it and learn how to manage it. But maybe the most powerful example of their differences came down to just 4 simple words. Poor Dad's go-to phrase was, "I can't afford it." And Rich Dad believed that saying that was a sign of, well, mental laziness. It's a statement that just shuts your brain down. It's game over. Rich Dad, on the other hand, taught Robert to never say those words. Instead, he had to ask a question. How can I afford it? Now, this isn't about just buying every shiny thing you see. It's about exercising your financial brain. It turns off the part of your mind that gives up and turns on the part that starts looking for solutions and possibilities. So, when he's just 9 years old, Robert decides he's going to learn from Rich Dad. But here's the thing. Rich Dad's lessons didn't happen in a classroom with a chalkboard. Nope. They happened in the real world. And the very first one, it was designed to be a little painful. And get this was Robert's first wage. Rich Dad gave him and his friend Mike a job in one of his stores for a whopping 10 cents an hour. I mean, even back in the 1950s, that was next to nothing. And the job itself was just excruciatingly dull. For 3 hours every single Saturday, they'd take cans off the shelves, dust them, and put them right back, over and over. After 3 weeks of this, for a pathetic 30 cents a week, Robert was frustrated. He felt totally used and was just about ready to quit. And that feeling of frustration, that was the whole point. When Robert finally storms in to complain, Rich Dad explains it to him. He says, life isn't going to sit you down for a lecture. Life just pushes you. That feeling of being underpaid, of doing pointless work, that was life itself saying, hey, wake up, there's a lesson here for you. And this is where Rich Dad finally drops the bomb. He reveals the first and, honestly, the most important rule of getting wealthy. It's a lesson that's going to change how Robert sees the world forever. See, that whole terrible, low-paying job was engineered to teach them this one single concept. Most people spend their lives driven by fear, the fear of not paying their bills. So they chase a paycheck. But the rich, they learn how to build things,
how to create systems so that their money is the thing that's working hard, not them.
This is the exact trap Rich Dad called the rat race. And he wanted those boys to avoid it at all costs. It's that endless cycle, right? You get a job to earn money, you spend that money, and now you need more money, which keeps you stuck working for somebody else for your whole life. You literally become a slave to your paycheck. So to really hammer this lesson home, Rich Dad makes this absolutely insane offer. He says, okay, you can keep working, but now I'm paying you nothing. Zero. The whole reason for this was to break their brain's connection to the idea of working for a wage. He wanted to force them to open their eyes and start seeing the opportunities that were all around them the whole time. So when you boil it all down, what was the real difference between these two dads? It really wasn't about being greedy or being smart in school. It all came down to one single thing: financial literacy. Think about it. A good job can give you money, sure, but a real financial education, actually understanding how money works, what assets are, what cash flow is, that gives you power. That knowledge is what allows you to build real, lasting wealth long after any single paycheck has been spent. Rich Dad has this brilliant way of visualizing this whole journey. It's called the cash flow quadrant. See, most people live on the left side of it. You're either an employee working for someone else or you're self-employed, which basically means you own your own job. But the goal of financial education is to move over to the right side, to become a business owner where you own a system that works for you, or an investor where your money works for you. And that really leaves us with the central question of the entire book. And it's something worth thinking about long after you're done with this explainer. Just take a second to look at your own life, your own finances, and ask yourself that question, honestly. Are you just working for money? Or have you started to learn how to make your money work for you?